I guess you could say my life was perfect. At least, that's what I thought up until a few weeks ago. My name's John, and for the last 5 years, I've been married to Rachel, who I thought was my everything. We weren't just a couple, we were the couple, living the dream. We were that picture-perfect pair who threw Instagram-worthy dinner parties and vacationed in places like Maui or the French Riviera, where the only thing more abundant than the sun was the champagne. I spared no expense to make Rachel happy. Anything she wanted, she got. She didn't have to work because, well, I made sure she didn't need to. She had all the designer bags, the latest gadgets, spa days twice a week. You name it. We traveled everywhere together: Paris, Tokyo, Rome. I thought we were living in our own romantic movie. But somewhere along the way, I guess the script flipped. See, I never saw it coming. Why would I? We were in love. Or at least I was. I mean, sure, sometimes she'd get distant, like when I'd surprise her with flowers and she'd barely look up from her phone. Or when she'd go on and on about how Tiffany's husband bought her a new car, or how Megan's fiancé was taking her to Bora Bora. But I thought it was harmless. I chalked it up to Rachel being, well, Rachel. A bit spoiled, a bit dramatic, but still mine. Then one day, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was from a woman I'd never met, nor heard of. Her name was Amanda, and she had a bone to pick with me. Not in a hostile way, mind you, more in the "you're not going to like what I have to say but you need to anyway" kind of way. She was calm, eerily so, like she had been waiting for this conversation. "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, John," she said, "but your wife is cheating on you." It felt like someone had just ripped out my lungs. You know, that gut punch that leaves you gasping for air but somehow frozen in place. Cheating. Rachel. My Rachel. The woman I've lavished with love, luxury, and loyalty. I didn't believe it. But Amanda was persistent, as if she had rehearsed this speech for days. "You don't know me, but I'm the wife of your wife's lover." Amanda's words rattled around in my brain like a marble in a tin can, bouncing off the walls of disbelief and denial. I couldn't speak for what felt like an eternity. My mind was struggling to piece it together, trying to make sense of something so absurd, so wrong. "Wait, what?" I finally managed to say, sounding more like I was asking her to repeat the time of day, not accusing my wife of adultery. "Rachel. Cheating. You must have the wrong person." But Amanda didn't flinch. "I'm not wrong, John. She's been sleeping with my husband for months. His name is Derek. And let me tell you something, Derek is no prize. He's a cheating bastard who can't keep it in his pants. He's done this before, but this time, I'm not the only one suffering. You are too." At this point, I wasn't sure what shocked me more, the fact that my wife was cheating or that I was being dragged into some kind of soap opera between a serial adulterer and his vengeful wife. It felt like I was living in a bad reality show. Amanda started spilling details like she had memorized the script. Dates, times, even locations. She told me how Derek and Rachel met at some charity gala. Of course, Rachel was all about the gala circuit, and how it started innocently enough. Flirty texts, a few business lunches, and eventually, secret hotel rooms when they thought no one was looking. I wasn't convinced, but a nagging suspicion started creeping in. Amanda's confidence, her utter lack of hesitation, made me wonder if I'd been blind to all the signs. Rachel had been acting strange lately, more distant, spending more time with her friends, and always glued to her phone. My denial was unraveling fast. "I can send you proof," Amanda continued. "If you want it. I have texts, screenshots, photos. You need to know the truth, John." I should have hung up right then. I should have told her she was crazy and that I wasn't going to believe any of this. But instead, I found myself muttering, "Send me whatever you have." I hung up the phone and stared at the wall, the weight of Amanda's words pressing down on me. I wanted to believe it was all a mistake. That Amanda was just some woman going through her own personal hell and somehow dragged me into it. But something in my gut told me to brace myself. Not even an hour later, I got an email with the subject line, "The Truth." I opened it with trembling hands, and there it was. The proof. Screenshots of texts between Rachel and Derek, all filled with the kind of flirtatious banter that made my stomach churn. Pictures of them at restaurants, at some bar I didn't recognize, and the final blow, a grainy shot of them walking into a hotel together, hand in hand. I felt my heart sink. It wasn't a mistake. It was real. Rachel, the woman I'd adored, was cheating on me with some sleazebag named Derek. And she wasn't even being careful about it. She was sloppy, leaving behind a digital trail for anyone with half a brain to find. That's when the anger hit. It wasn't just a dull rage, it was like a fire igniting in my chest. I had sacrificed so much for her, bent over backward to give her everything, and this is how she repaid me? I slammed my laptop shut, pacing the room like a caged animal. There was no way I could let her get away with this. I had to confront her, but not without a plan. No, I wanted to make sure she felt every ounce of betrayal I was feeling. She deserved that, at the very least. The rest of the evening was a blur. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I was just waiting. Waiting for Rachel to come home from wherever the hell she was. I didn't bother calling her. What was the point? I had all the proof I needed. Finally, around midnight, I heard her car pull into the driveway. She waltzed in like nothing was wrong, her hair perfect, her lipstick freshly applied, carrying shopping bags from God knows where. I watched her from the kitchen, unnoticed, as she flitted around, putting things away. When she finally saw me, standing there with my arms crossed, she froze. "Oh, hey, babe," she said, flashing me that rehearsed smile that used to make my heart flutter. "You're up late. Everything okay?" Was everything okay? The audacity of her even asking that question nearly sent me over the edge. "We need to talk," I said, my voice tight. I could see a flicker of panic cross her face, but she quickly buried it under that cool, confident exterior she always wore like armor. "About what?" she asked, playing dumb. Of course, she was going to lie. I knew her too well. But she had no idea what was coming. I leaned in, my voice cold and deliberate. "About Derek." The color drained from Rachel's face. For the first time in years, I saw her mask crack, just a tiny fissure, but enough to know she wasn't expecting this. She tried to play it off, though. Classic Rachel. "Derek." "Who's Derek?" she said with a confused little laugh, her hand nervously brushing her hair behind her ear. I almost admired the effort. Almost. "Don't play dumb with me, Rachel," I said, not budging. "I know everything. The charity gala, the lunches, the hotels. Hell, I even know about that night at the Hilton when you told me you were at Megan's birthday dinner. Funny, I don't remember Derek being on the guest list." She blinked, caught off guard. I could see the wheels turning in her head, scrambling to figure out how to salvage the situation. She wasn't used to being cornered like this. Normally, I was the laid-back husband, the guy who would shrug off her quirks and indulgences, but not tonight. Tonight, I was the guy who had been pushed too far. "John, I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Where is this even coming from?" I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone, and with a few taps, opened Amanda's email. The evidence, the photos, the texts, the undeniable proof, sat there on the screen like a bomb waiting to explode. I tossed the phone on the table in front of her. "Here. Take a look. Maybe it'll jog your memory." Rachel's eyes widened as she saw the images, her hand instinctively covering her mouth. For a moment, I thought she might break down, admit everything, beg for forgiveness. But no. That would have been too simple. Too easy. This was Rachel we were talking about, the queen of deflection. She quickly composed herself, her face hardening as she shoved the phone back toward me. "This is ridiculous. You don't even know what you're looking at. Derek's just a friend. I don't know what kind of lies his crazy wife is feeding you, but she's got it all wrong." "A friend?" I scoffed, unable to believe what I was hearing. I don't know many friends who sneak off to hotels together or send each other texts like, "Can't wait to see you tonight. My husband thinks I'm out with the girls." You're really going to stand there and keep lying to me? Even now? Her expression changed again, this time growing more defiant. "So what if I've been spending time with Derek?" "It's not what you think." "God, John, you're always so dramatic. You think you're some kind of detective because you've got a few pictures? People hug, people meet for drinks. That doesn't mean anything happened." I could feel the anger rising in me again, but I tried to stay calm. "Rachel, do you hear yourself? You're not even trying to make sense anymore." "I'm not an idiot. You don't go to this much trouble for just a friend." She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, please, John. Maybe if you weren't so busy running off on your little business trips and playing the perfect husband, you'd have seen this coming." And there it was. The turn I knew she'd take, blaming me. Somehow, in Rachel's twisted mind, this was now my fault. I should have seen it coming, but that didn't make it hurt any less. So, this is my fault now. I work to provide for you, to give you the life you want, and I'm the problem? You cheat on me, and I'm supposed to believe it's because I didn't buy you enough stuff or take you to enough parties. Her voice rose, her frustration boiling over. You just don't get it. It's not about the stuff, John. It's about attention. You're always working, always busy, and I'm just supposed to sit around and wait for you to notice me? Well, guess what? I got tired of waiting. I stood there, stunned, not because of what she said. Her words were a cheap deflection, but because I realized at that moment that she wasn't sorry. She wasn't even close to remorseful. Rachel didn't feel guilty about cheating. She felt justified. You're unbelievable, I muttered, shaking my head. Do you even hear yourself? You've had everything handed to you, everything, and it still wasn't enough. You couldn't just come to me, talk to me. No, you had to sneak around like some lovesick teenager. She threw her hands up in exasperation. Why should I have to explain myself to you? You're so busy being the hero of this marriage, but you never stop to think about how I feel. I laughed bitterly. How you feel? How about how I feel, Rachel? Did you ever stop to think about that while you were off with Derek, or were you too busy playing the victim in your own story? For a second, there was silence. Thick, heavy silence. I could see it in her eyes, the wheels turning again, her brain working overtime to figure out the next move. She wasn't going to admit it, wasn't going to give me the satisfaction. I don't know what you expect from me, John, she finally said, her voice icy. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe things got out of hand. But you're not innocent in all this either. You've got your own part to play. I could feel the fire in my chest again, but this time it wasn't just anger, it was clarity. Rachel wasn't going to take responsibility. She wasn't going to admit to the affair, and she sure as hell wasn't going to apologize. This was who she was. I took a deep breath, and for the first time that night, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. You're right, Rachel. I do have a part to play. But trust me, you're not going to like it. She looked at me, confused. What's that supposed to mean? I gave her a cold smile. It means I'm done. You can keep lying to yourself all you want, but I'm not going to stick around and watch you tear our life apart. Her eyes widened. Wait. John, what are you saying? I'm saying we're done, Rachel. This marriage. It's over. The words hung in the air like a final blow. I could see the panic starting to seep in. She wasn't prepared for this. Not for me to actually leave. Rachel stared at me, wide-eyed, as if the ground beneath her was starting to crumble. She wasn't prepared for this. She was the type who thrived on control, always the one in charge, always the one with the upper hand. And now, that power was slipping away. Wait, John. You can't just walk out, she said, her voice suddenly soft, as if she'd switched gears to try and tug at my heartstrings. We've been through so much together. You're just going to throw it all away? Over this? This asterisk. I repeated, my voice hard. Rachel, it's not some tiny mistake we can sweep under the rug. You've been cheating on me. You lied to me, over and over. And you didn't even have the decency to own up to it. You want to act like this is something we can fix? No. This isn't fixable. Her mouth opened to respond, but no words came out. She knew I was right, but more than that, she knew she couldn't manipulate her way out of this one. I was done. Done playing the role of the clueless husband, done bending over backward for someone who didn't care enough to be honest. I started to turn toward the door when, suddenly, my phone buzzed again. It was Amanda. Her timing, as always, was impeccable. I hesitated for a second, not sure if I wanted to dive deeper into this mess tonight, but then I remembered what she had said earlier. She had an idea. A plan. Something to get back at both Rachel and Derek. And after everything I'd just endured, I wasn't above a little payback. I answered the call. "Hey," I said, my voice steady but still charged with the emotion of the confrontation. Rachel, sensing the shift in the air, tried to listen in, but I stepped away, not ready to let her in on this part just yet. "John," Amanda's voice crackled on the other end. "How did it go?" "It's exactly what you'd expect," I said, keeping my voice low. She denied it, deflected, blamed me. The usual. There was a pause on the line, then Amanda spoke again, her tone sharp with determination. "I've been thinking. We need to hit them where it hurts. Not just break their hearts, but make them suffer for what they did." I didn't say anything, letting her continue. Part of me was curious. Another part of me, the part that still cared about decency and ethics, was already starting to fade, burned away by the fury and betrayal I felt. "I have an idea," Amanda said, her voice now hushed as if we were co-conspirators in some grand scheme. "Derek's been cheating for years. He'll sleep with any woman who bats her eyelashes at him. He's a dog, and it's only a matter of time before he ruins someone else's life. I want to make sure he gets what's coming to him, and I want Rachel to go down with him." "What do you have in mind?" I asked, the curiosity now shifting into something darker. Amanda's voice took on a dangerous edge. "I know a woman, let's just say she's got a reputation. Well, let's call her a professional in the art of seduction. I've talked to her before, and for the right price, she's willing to do more than just break hearts." My brow furrowed. "More." Amanda didn't mince words. "This woman has an STD, something nasty. She doesn't sleep around without making sure her partners take a little something home with them. I want to pay her to go after Derek. Lure him in, get him into bed, and infect him." My breath caught. This was going far beyond what I'd imagined. "You want to infect him?" "Yes. And once Derek's got it, well, you know how these things go. He's going to infect Rachel. It's poetic justice. They can share more than just their affair. They can share the consequences." I didn't respond right away. This was no longer just about catching them in the act or exposing them. This was revenge in its rawest, most dangerous form. And yet, part of me, maybe the part that had been pushed to the brink, was intrigued. They had hurt me deeply, torn apart everything I thought we had built. Why shouldn't they suffer in return? "How much?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Amanda chuckled darkly. "Not as much as you'd think. I'll handle the payment. All you need to do is make sure Rachel's none the wiser. We'll make sure everything's set up perfectly. Derek will think he's just scored another one-night stand, and then, boom. He's in for a nasty surprise." I swallowed hard, the weight of what I was about to do sinking in. But the truth was, I didn't care anymore. Rachel had already betrayed me in the worst possible way. She deserved what was coming to her. And if Derek was dumb enough to fall into the trap, well, that was on him. "I'll be out of town," I said, my mind racing with the possibilities. "I'll tell Rachel I'm visiting my parents for a few weeks. That'll give you enough time to set everything up." "Perfect," Amanda said. "We'll take care of the rest. You just sit back and let the plan unfold." I hung up the phone and turned back to Rachel, who was still standing there, staring at me with a mix of confusion and unease. "John, what the hell is going on?" "Who was that?" she demanded, her voice rising. I forced a calm smile, my anger now masked behind a thin veneer of control. "Don't worry about it. I'm going to be gone for a while. Family stuff. You'll have the house all to yourself. Enjoy it." Before she could respond, I walked past her, out the door, and into the night. She didn't know it yet, but her world was about to come crashing down. The weeks passed in a haze, with Rachel blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. I followed through on my plan, telling her I was going to visit my parents in another state. She didn't seem to care much. In fact, I'm pretty sure she was relieved. It gave her more time to do whatever the hell she wanted while I was out of the picture. Meanwhile, Amanda and I were in constant contact. She assured me everything was going according to plan. The woman she hired, let's call her Samantha, was already working her magic. From what Amanda told me, Derek was easy to seduce. Apparently, he was one of those guys who'd cheat on his wife for a wink and a smile, which made him the perfect target. Samantha had bumped into him at a bar one night, pretending to be just another lonely, flirty woman looking for some fun. It didn't take long before Derek was wrapped around her finger. They went back to her place, and well, let's just say the deed was done. Derek, being the fool that he was, had no clue what he had just walked into. Amanda sent me updates as the days went by, and from what she gathered, it didn't take long for Derek to start feeling the effects of his little rendezvous. You know how these things go. First, it's a little itching, a little burning, and before you know it, the guys at the doctor's office trying to figure out why his downstairs department feels like it's on fire. I'd be lying if I said I didn't get some sick satisfaction out of it. I mean, the guy had been screwing my wife for months, and now he was getting exactly what he deserved. And the best part? Rachel had no idea that she was next in line. She had no idea that the man she thought was her secret lover was about to turn her life upside down. One evening, I was sitting in the hotel room I'd been staying at, sipping a whiskey, when Amanda called again. "John," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice, "it's happening. Derek's freaking out. He went to the clinic today, and he's positive for an STD. And guess what? He's already been with Rachel since it happened." I leaned back in my chair, letting out a low chuckle. It was almost too perfect. "How's he handling it?" "Oh, he's panicking," Amanda replied, laughing softly. "He doesn't know who to blame, Samantha, Rachel, or the universe. But I know this much. He's going to have to tell Rachel soon, or she's going to find out on her own. And when that happens, well, things are going to get real interesting." I could almost picture the look on Rachel's face when she found out. All the lies, all the sneaking around, and now she was going to have to deal with the consequences. And the best part? She wouldn't even know it was all part of our plan. She'd think it was just bad luck, karma catching up to her for all the cheating and deception. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Rachel hadn't contacted me, which was strange. Usually, she'd send me a text or two, pretending to miss me, trying to keep up the illusion that everything was fine. But now, radio silence. It wasn't long before I got the call I'd been waiting for. It was Rachel. "John, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky and filled with fear. I played it cool. "What's going on? Everything okay?" "No, it's not. Something's wrong. I don't know how to say this, but I think I have an STD. Bingo." I pretended to be shocked, which, let me tell you, took every ounce of self-control I had. "An STD? What are you talking about? How?" She started crying, her voice cracking. "I don't know. I went to the doctor because I wasn't feeling well, and they ran some tests, and, oh God, John, I don't know how this happened. I'm so scared." I let the silence hang between us for a moment, letting her stew in her guilt. Then, in the calmest voice I could muster, I said, "Rachel, is there something you need to tell me?" Her sobbing intensified. "I'm so sorry, John. I made a mistake. It was just a fling, I swear. I didn't mean for it to happen, but Derek, Derek, I repeated, letting the name roll off my tongue like poison. "You mean your friend Derek? The one you told me wasn't anything more than that?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But it didn't mean anything. It was just, I don't know. I wasn't thinking. Please, John, you have to believe me. I'm sorry." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her just how much she'd hurt me. But instead, I stayed quiet, letting her confession sink in. "You cheated on me, Rachel. After everything I've done for you, you cheated on me with some scumbag, and now you want me to feel sorry for you because you're infected? Is that what you're saying?" No, it's not like that. Please, John, I know I messed up, but I need your help. I don't know what to do." Her desperation was palpable, and in any other situation, I might have felt sorry for her. But not this time. This time, I had the upper hand. This time, she was the one scrambling for answers, while I watched from the sidelines. "You know what, Rachel? You're right. You did mess up. Big time. But you know what's even worse? You didn't just betray me, you betrayed yourself. And now, you're going to have to live with the consequences." Before she could respond, I hung up the phone, the sound of her sobbing still echoing in my ears. It was done. The trap had been set, and Rachel had fallen right into it. Now, she and Derek could enjoy their little gift together while I moved on with my life. As I sat there, staring at the phone, I realized something. I wasn't just getting revenge for the affair. I was freeing myself from the prison of lies and deceit that had defined my marriage for so long. And honestly, it felt pretty damn good. In the days following Rachel's confession, I felt a strange sense of liberation. It was like the weight of the entire marriage, all the lies, the betrayal, the guilt, had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking around trying to please someone who didn't deserve it. I wasn't pretending everything was fine. I wasn't blind anymore. I stayed in the hotel for another week, letting Rachel stew in her own mess. She tried calling a few more times, leaving long, tearful voicemails begging me to forgive her, asking for another chance, promising she'd change. But each message only solidified what I already knew. There was no going back. Not after everything she'd done, not after everything we'd planned. I didn't respond. There was no point. What could she say that would fix this? Apologies meant nothing when they were laced with lies. Besides, I had already moved past the idea of reconciliation. I was thinking about the next chapter of my life, the one where I didn't have to deal with her endless drama. As for Amanda, she was ecstatic with how things had played out. She and I stayed in touch, not because we were planning anything more, but because we found some twisted camaraderie in our shared betrayal. She left Derek the moment she confirmed he was infected, served him with divorce papers, and never looked back. Apparently, he didn't take it well, but that was her problem to deal with. I had my own life to sort out. By the time I returned home, Rachel was gone. She had moved out, taking only her clothes and a few personal belongings, leaving behind the house we once shared. I could still feel her presence in every corner of that place, but it no longer had a hold on me. The house was just bricks and wood now, a shell of the life we once built together, one that I was more than happy to leave behind. The divorce process was surprisingly quick. Rachel didn't fight me on anything. She knew she didn't have a leg to stand on, not after everything. I got the house, most of our assets, and walked away from the marriage with my dignity intact. She, on the other hand, would have to live with the consequences of her actions, both emotionally and physically. As for Derek, I heard through the grapevine that he was having a rough time. The infection had caused all sorts of problems, not just between him and Rachel, but with other women he'd been with as well. Amanda had been right. He was the type of guy who thought he could get away with anything. Well, not this time. Karma had a funny way of catching up to people like him. It wasn't long after the divorce was finalized that I decided to sell the house. There were too many memories there, and none of them were worth holding on to. I needed a fresh start, somewhere far from the reminders of Rachel and her betrayal. I ended up moving to a smaller place on the coast, a quiet town where no one knew my story or my past. It was exactly what I needed. In the end, what surprised me the most wasn't the satisfaction of revenge, though, I won't lie, that part felt good. What surprised me was how much I learned about myself through all of this. I had spent years trying to make Rachel happy, thinking that if I just gave her more, if I just tried harder, she'd love me the way I loved her. But the truth was, I'd been lying to myself for just as long as she had been lying to me. Rachel wasn't the woman I thought she was. She never was. And as painful as that realization was, it also set me free. I didn't need to chase someone's love, didn't need to be the perfect husband or provider. I just needed to be true to myself. If I had any advice for others going through the same thing, it would be this: don't ignore the signs. Don't let yourself become a bystander in your own life. If something feels off, it probably is. And if someone betrays you, don't be afraid to walk away. It's better to rebuild your life on your own terms than to keep living in a house of lies. As for Rachel and Derek, I couldn't care less. Whatever happens to them is their problem now. I've moved on. And let me tell you, it feels damn good to finally be free. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.